Okay, hello everyone. I am Duncan Gale,
I'm Cody Decker.
and live from Saturn, it's Saturday Night Live.
Heck yeah, dude.
I just figured I would start with that stupid joke. I'm sure everybody is going to make that joke about this.
I definitely make it in my head every single time I say the title.
Sure. Okay, good. All right.
I was like, it's Saturday night, and I'm like, a material in Fallout New Vegas.
All right, very good. So it is my great pleasure to be here with my friend Cody Decker. You may have heard me when we talked about Clan of the Cave Bear, and whether you liked me or not, I'm going to be a more regular part of this, I think, from now on. So deal with it.
Yeah. Frank is very busy. He's like a huge artist, or not. I mean, he sells a lot and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a lot of life stuff going on, so he might not be here for a little bit.
Hope he comes back, but
just because he does art shows, and I may be like he's like, yeah, you should probably do your art shows.
Okay, well, he has an actual job where he's making real money doing his art. I guess that's cool. Yeah, whatever.
If you want to sell out,
right? Exactly. Sell out as an independent artist makes me sick. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, what we're going to be discussing today is a book by Douglas Adams called Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. So, so I guess we'll just start in, and I'll give some background about it. This book, I actually have a pretty long history with this book. It's one of my favorites, and I think I first read it when I was probably about 13 years old, and I didn't really get it at the time. And then I read it again when I was 18, and I got a little bit better. And it quickly became one of my favorites. And so it's interesting to me to return to it again at the age that I am now, which I won't reveal at this time.
Well, we're all 22.
That's right. Yeah, 22. That's right.
My hairline isn't receding.
That's right.
And it never will. I felt this when I only saw the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, this is interesting.
Right.
But the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, I feel like there's a joke I'm not in on when I'm watching this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's a good way to kind of describe Douglas Adams's humor in general. Yeah, I mean, it's very he's British. There's a real sort of droll, cynical quality to a lot of it. And when you're first kind of encountering it, you might not completely get what's going on, but it sort of becomes increasingly familiar. If you kind of stick with it. Anyway, that's my sort of background with it. But Douglas Adams. If you're not familiar with him, he was a British author from Cambridge, it looks like, and he sadly passed away in 2001, far too young. But during his relatively brief life, he wrote a number of books. Obviously the Hitchhiker's Guide books are the most well known. There's 5 of those, but he also wrote. This book, Dirk Gently, and he wrote one other sequel to it, which I have not yet read, but I think I probably will in the near future. The Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul.
I mean, my appreciation for English humor. That increases the older you get, because I'm. Within a couple chapters, I'm just like, and I hear the titles, and I'm like, yes, brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty great title. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think I pretty much just discovered this shortly after I had read the Hitchhiker's books, and I think it's not quite as straightforward sci-fi as those, but but it has some really sort of interesting aspects to it. It's a little more kind of grounded in reality. But so I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit further. But before we get to that, in terms of adaptations, so as far as I know, I think there is one. There was one like a British TV adaptation of this that came out. I think sometime in like the early to mid 2000s. There's also a more recent TV miniseries, which, as far as I can tell, is not actually directly based on any of the books, but it has some guy that I can't remember playing Dirk Gently, and then Elijah Wood plays like his assistant or something.
Because this does feel, at least at the beginning, it felt like a series of sketches.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them, but like I was like, oh, there's like an interconnecting story. Like I was like fine with that because it's like 4 chapters. Like, oh, is each one just gonna be like, here's this bit, and I'm like, oh, that was a good bit. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, okay, here's what's actually happening. So like.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things very unconventional about the book, of course, because Douglas Adams is not a conventional writer. But in a lot of ways, it is also a very kind of conventional detective story in a lot of ways. I mean, to me, as I was reading it again, I realized that it actually kind of has the structure of like a Columbo episode in a way, because I mean, if you ever watched the old Columbo shows, I know that's far too old of a reference for you, Cody, but I mean, it was interesting. I mean, the Columbo show. One of the sort of signature things about it was that it wasn't actually a mystery. Like, it began with you saw the person commit the crime, and so so the rest of it was just like seeing how they figure it out. Yeah. Basically, how Columbo came in and slowly like got them trapped in a web of their own lies and so forth.
I love when that happens.
Yeah. So that was cool, but yeah, what makes this similar to a Columbo episode is that, Columbo would never be like the main character of the episode. Like he would come in like sort of halfway through. Like the main character was like the person that did the crime. And so this is a little similar to that, in that Dirk Gently himself, I think the book is almost halfway over before he even kind of appears for the first time. So
I thought like, oh, is that part of the joke here, that there is no Dirk Gently?
Right. Well, I guess part of the joke is that when he's first even mentioned, his first and last name is neither Dirk nor Gently. I think it's Slad Sigelli, and then they're like, oh yeah, but I think he went by Dirk. Yeah, Dirk Sigelli. But then later on you find that he's going by Dirk Gently now. So it's a very kind of convoluted way that his name even comes up in the first place, and that's very kind of signature Douglas Adams type humor, I think. Yeah.
I do think, like, if you don't like the first joke in the beginning, I guess it's not important for you. But I'm like, this opens. This book it's one of those ones where it's like you're just heartily chuckling, right? Like the whole time, you're like, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Ooh, I never thought of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So okay. So I think in terms of our general assessment, it sounds like I mean, obviously I like it, and it sounds like you enjoyed it pretty well.
This was great.
Okay, good.
It turns out I'm a very big fan of comedy detective stories, because I don't have Columbo. I do have Naked Gun.
Right.
And this felt like the exact same, the same humor.
Sure.
Which is like, the humor is in the reality of the world, and everyone takes it very seriously.
Right.
So like that was my context for the movie in my head when I was listening to this, because I listen to audiobooks. You physically read them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of mechanism. Which the narrator of this was really good too.
Oh, good.
And honestly, you could hear his chair squeaking.
Oh, really?
Which added to it for me, because it's just like, I don't know, it felt like the detective was there like recounting it.
And
it added to that humor. Definitely not on purpose.
Right.
But like,
Yeah, the narrator of the book that you listened to was, I mean, was he British?
Yeah.
Okay, he was British. Yeah, and was it actually Douglas Adams himself? Because I think there is a version of this that he himself reads, but I think there's a number of different versions of it.
The audiobook I got off of, I mean, the biggest one. Oh yeah. Oh, that was Douglas Adams.
Okay.
Oh my
so
God.
you actually listened to the man himself read it. That's
well
great.
that would explain why they did a good job and they got all the comedy beats.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, because sometimes. Yeah. If you look up Douglas Adams on YouTube, I mean, you could. I mean, he like appeared on like David Letterman's show back in the '80s and stuff, and I mean, he's very sort of dynamic and funny himself, which is not the case with all writers, but yeah, I mean, he seems like he was actually sort of a comedian that happened to work behind the scenes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it turns out maybe I'll check out the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book because I am like, I guess I just was too young to appreciate the humor when I saw the movie.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And the movie is actually great. Yeah. You were referring to the movie with Mos Def and Martin Freeman, and it was.
I don't know who was in it. There was a robot.
Yeah.
And then like there were dolphins, and then they.
Yeah. The movie starts with like a dolphin musical number.
Yeah, so long and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah. I mean, I actually thought that the movie was pretty great, but it's very different from the book. But I think it's kind of its own thing that was also good. Yeah.
Oh, just one more thing about the audiobook. They do include some sound effects. So like,
oh, that's good.
When they do the like, oh, you have a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
They include like the little voice filters and like beeping noises and stuff.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. That seems like that would be necessary for certain elements here. So yeah, and on that, I guess we can get into the story overview now.
Mm-hmm. If this wasn't audio only, just imagine in your mind some sort of like graphics card, and beautifully drawn.
Yeah,
could not be better. This says general overview.
Yeah. All right.
There it is. Look, it's animated. It's like an animated GIF. And it's like it's us. It's the two of us, and we're shaking our fists at each other.
All right, very good.
Very good. That feels like a way you talk in school. That felt a little professory to me. I don't want to bring it up too much, but that really felt like there's the class clown, and you're like, all right, let's get back to the last.
I mean, one of the things with teaching college is, you become a master of filling the awkward silences, and hopefully that will also, come in handy recording podcasts
for
episodes.
Our myriad of awkward pauses we will be having. Many more to come. Stay tuned, folks. You don't want to miss it.
Yeah. All right. Well, it
starts with like a sketch about like an electric monk.
Yeah. I mean, basically the way that the book starts is very, I guess, obscure. You could say, very confusing in a way that I mean, actually, when I'm just flipping through it now, and there's three very short chapters that the book starts with, and one of them is just about sort of time passing, and then the second one is about the electric monk, and basically. Yeah, so and that's actually something that we can kind of pause and talk about for a little bit. The electric monk in general and what that actually is. It's a very, very kind of creative idea, I think, where it's basically so an electric monk is basically a sort of robot that is designed to believe things. like that's
it believes things for you.
Right.
I thought because like the joke before that is like they talk about how like recorders watch things for you.
Right.
And I was like oh, that's such a funny way of phrasing that.
Yeah.
And then like
exactly.
that's the mentally prepare you for the electric monk, which will believe things for you too.
Right.
And I know that I bet the people in Black Mirror were like, we would have done that seriously, but it's been done as a joke first.
Oh yeah. No, that is very, very Black Mirror-y. Yeah. So yeah, the electric monk is sort of introduced, but yeah, not much is said about him other than that. Yeah, he's just something that's designed to believe things. Yeah, but really the story begins, I would say, with this character Richard McDuff. Okay, yeah. And he is basically going to his old college. He's been invited there by this very eccentric professor, who is the Regius Professor of Chronology, and that will be important later. As well, but yeah. So basically, there's this long scene where this guy Richard is going to his old college, which is I think Douglas Adams mentions that it's based on St. John's College in Cambridge, but it's so basically Cambridge is where it sort of takes place, and so he goes there, and there's a reading of a poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who is a real poet. If you don't know, who attended the same college at Cambridge. There's a reading of his poem Kubla Khan, and that will also be very, very important later on. But basically, yeah. So yeah, it's a long scene at this college, and where this guy Richard is talking to this very eccentric professor.
The standout joke for me was he was like, "Can I offer you some salt?" Right. And they just mentioned there's no food on the table, and I'm like, because I know like Salt and Sanctuary is like a classic. Like that means you're being hospitable. So he offers the guy salt, and then the book that camera pans over, and there's just no food. He's just offering him like actual salt.
Right.
And he's just like, no, thank you. And like that humor. That's when I was like, okay, I know for sure what I'm in for. Just gags and like just stuff like that's funny. And I'm like, I've never seen that before.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's good. So yeah, the bit with the salt, yeah, that's important, because basically, yeah, one of the professors there has brought along his young daughter, who is of course very, very bored being at this college function, and and so this eccentric guy, the professor of chronology, wants to entertain her, and so he does this magic trick where he makes a salt shaker disappear, and then it reappears inside of this ancient Greek vase.
They call it a salt cellar.
Right. Yeah. I guess. I think that's like a British thing. Yeah. I think they call a salt shaker a salt cellar. But yeah, and so basically, yeah, this ancient Greek vase, like he breaks it open, and the salt shaker is inside of it, and it's one of these one of many things that is sort of introduced at the beginning, and that will only be paid off much later on in the book. But yeah, and so all of the professors are just kind of think he's a weirdo, and don't recognize that, like, I mean this thing that he did is like not only one of the greatest magic tricks ever, but it's like
he also broke it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and it would be interesting, if like something like that actually happened at one of these like very highfalutin kind of functions, where it's like, on the one hand, this guy did this great magic trick, but on the other hand, he destroyed a priceless
to prove that he did it
thing to do it. So it's like, so people would be confused as to whether they can be, amazed by the trick or outraged at what what he just did.
This did a really good job of putting me in the position of just someone like just hanging around. Like if I was the detective's assistant, I'm just like there, and I'm like, you just smashed the vase. There's a lot of other ways you could have done that. But like, I think like the Fantastic Four reboot would have been good as a comedy. Because you remember the scene where he's like, "Oh, I created a teleporter," and then the teacher goes like, "This isn't a magic show," and just no one cares. That they're like,
okay,
it's like that. That basically was accidentally a comedy.
Wow. Yeah. I pretty much blocked all memory of that movie. From my memory, but yeah, no, that's good. Yeah.
So it's a similar thing of like, what else you got? They made a volcano.
Oh, they did?
Like the other students. It was like they were like in elementary school or something.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He made like he made a teleport. The teacher like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Reed Richards. Yeah, he's almost like too smart. Yeah, it's like he's so smart that he annoys everybody else. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like Jimmy Neutron.
Right.
I'll stop just bringing up other things.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, so that I was surprised because it is like this is all like preparing you for where the story actually goes to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is real kind of classic detective story things where like really just the first part of this book is a bunch of weird things that happen. And then the second part is gradually explaining sort of why they happen. Yeah. But yeah, so it requires a bit of sort of paying attention.
That was the other, because I thought like, it's gonna be like a goofy comedy,
right.
But like I had to actually focus on the story because if I didn't, I would miss the jokes. Because they were jokes that you had to be like okay, that's funny.
Right.
But like if I like phased out, I'd be like I feel like I just heard the audience laughter go off, and I have to go back and like now actually like focus on it.
Right.
And then it's like they're all seeds and stuff.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a real kind of thing about Douglas Adams' humor that I think is particularly special. Yeah, is that it's funny just in the moment. Like it just works as a pure joke, but then it's like when you think about it more, it's like, oh yeah, but actually that's like perfect the way that joke is constructed and everything. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so I mean, so that magic trick is one strange thing that happens, and then another strange thing that happens is that Richard goes back to the apartment of this professor, and they have tea there, and then he goes to the professor's bathroom, and there's a horse in the bathroom.
That is constantly brought up.
Yeah.
They were just be like, basically like, how are we going to address the horse?
Right.
Instead of an elephant.
Yeah. So that's another weird thing that happens. Another weird thing that happens. Okay, so this character Richard, who is more or less the sort of main character of the book. He works in computer programming, and he works for this guy Gordon Way, who, I mean, this book was written in the late '80s, so this was before any of, I guess Steve Jobs and Bill Gates were somewhat well known at that time. So yeah, I mean, this guy Gordon Way seems to be a little bit like a kind of Steve Jobs sort of character. So you kind of cut to him, and he's in his car, and he's like talking to people. He has a car phone, which again, at the time this book was written, that was a big deal. And then he stops off at the side of the road and opens up his trunk, and he gets shot. And for the rest of the book, Gordon Way still is a character in the book, but he exists as a ghost.
Took me a bit to realize that's what was happening.
Right.
And then I kept forgetting that like he just Yeah. And then there's like a voicemail thing where it was like,
right.
One of the gags where he's like, I'm just gonna delete that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's an interesting thing. Yeah, getting into the more supernatural aspects of the book is I mean it's a little bit of a ghost story, in that there is a ghost in it.
In the story.
Yeah. I mean he's not really haunting anybody, but
he's just
he's just kind of there, and there's a lot of descriptions of like how like he can interact with the world, but like it takes a lot of concentration for him to do it. So much like the movie Ghost.
Yeah. I was thinking, like you gotta feel it. You gotta.
That's right.
Move the can.
That's right. So yeah, that's another odd thing that happens, and and so basically we have a magic trick, we have a horse in a bathroom, we have a guy that randomly gets killed, and basically how do all of these things sort of fit together?
And that is the very interesting thing, because they all feel natural.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not like, oh, now there's a ghost. I'm like, okay, okay. Now the horse was like teleported because of the salt was.
Right.
And then it's like, and it's called holistic.
Right.
Detective agency. So I'm like, there's gonna be some stuff about that too.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, ghosts are connected to holistic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Salt is supernatural, right? And that scares ghosts
can be.
Or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ghosts don't like salt.
Right.
I know that from the Disney Halloween movie.
Oh, okay.
She pours salt in a circle.
Yeah. Which movie is that?
The one with the three witches.
Oh, Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I know that.
I just saw that movie recently for the first time.
What'd you think of it?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I can understand why it's a cult classic. So, okay. I think at this point we can actually get into Dirk Gently himself as a character. So yeah, at a certain point, Richard, and it's mostly just because his professor kind of brought up Dirk when they were talking. He was just like, oh yeah, whatever happened to that guy? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I see him around every now and then, and then and he starts looking him up in the phone book, which again for the kids out there, it's an actual physical book that we used to use to look up people's phone numbers and addresses. And
that is weird that you could just do that.
Yeah.
And they gave it to you.
That's right. Yeah. It was just
here's everyone's address.
It's just delivered on your doorstep, free.
You couldn't stop them.
That's right.
It's just like you couldn't be like, no, don't give it. They're like, no, here's every information about everyone around you.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, now you can just find that on their Snapchats.
Yeah, if people choose to reveal such things, yeah. But
you think Yellow Pages? They should have tried an app, like a social media app called Yellow Pages.
Yeah, that could have been lucrative. I mean, actually, let's
bring Yellow Pages back.
Let's develop that.
Yeah. We'll Best Buy Yellow Pages. We'll. Oh, I did the most hipster thing earlier, by the way. I got a thrift store shirt that said that was a Best Buy. Let's make it a Blockbuster night. Or Blockbuster, not Best Buy. I saw it at a thrift store, like, this is hilarious, and like as I purchased, I'm like, I'm just a hipster now.
Let's make it a Blockbuster night. Yeah. No, I still remember those commercials, yeah. Wow, what a difference. Blockbuster video. Okay. I'm old. So there's a certain point where Richard, he's looking through the Yellow Pages, and he finds the listing that says Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. We solve the whole crime. We find the whole person. Phone today for the whole solution to your problem. Missing cats and messy divorces especially. So yeah, that's a funny little kind of introduction to his sort of enterprise overall. So
it's just because I can't get it out of my head. But there's a book called Stormfront, and it was like this person's first like fantasy book, and it's about a wizard detective. It's not a comedy, but like he does have an advertisement for his wizard detective agency in the yellow. It's That's like great. there's humor in the world, but he's just like a lot of times he gets hired to do like fake stuff, but he's like, I am an actual wizard.
Right.
And they're just like, there's like the wizard world. You're like, you're not supposed to tell people, and he's like, no one takes me seriously.
Oh wow, that's kind of like that show Psych. Did you ever see that show Psych?
I have been told I would love it, and I just never got around to watching it.
Yeah, I mean, in that show, it's basically, I guess it's kind of the reverse of what you're talking about, where it's this guy that's basically just a really good detective, but like he can't get work just on the basis of being a really good detective, and so he pretends to be psychic.
That's a good premise.
Yeah.
I don't know why I haven't watched it. That sounds fun.
Yeah. No, it's an entertaining show.
I think I remember I saw a commercial when it first came out where it was just like he saw like these two like coworkers, and he's like, oh, I can see the hair there. I can see that like their clothes are ruffled. He's like, you guys are in relations, like, and they're like, how can you tell? He's like, oh, I just get like a vibe.
Right.
Yeah. That's a very fun. It's like it's easier to just say you're a psychic than to like explain to someone.
To explain, no, I'm actually just really observant. But yeah, it's like there's no difference there. Yeah. So yeah, basically when Dirk gently comes onto the scene, it's interesting the way that he sort of explains what being a holistic detective is, and basically how it's all about paying attention to the interconnectedness of all things. And there's also a lot of references to Schrodinger's cat in this, which if it's something that you're coming to for the first time, that part might be a little confusing. Was that something that you were already familiar with?
I know about Schrodinger's cat. Yeah. Explain to the folks at home though. What is the cat guy? Yeah. I know there's a cesium. Cesium's in it, right?
Oh, okay. Well, actually, you might know more about it than me. Yeah,
it's about the superposition of quantum states.
Right.
It's a metaphor. It's not supposed to say like you wouldn't actually be able to know.
Right.
But like, and like that's very superposition on quantum levels is like that's like the big thing happening too, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the situation is just, it's meant to sort of, I guess, illustrate the uncertainty of what happens on the quantum level. And so if you take a piece of radioactive material and put it in a enclosed
nice cat. He got a thing before
I almost knocked over my water bottle. That was uncertain.
Okay, yeah. Dude.
Gotta tie it all together. But yeah, so like if you put a cat into an like enclosed space with a decaying radioactive material, there's a point where it's uncertain whether the material has actually released its radioactivity or not, and in that moment, the cat is both alive and dead.
Isn't it like, and by opening the box, you've now changed the result.
Right.
It's something about there's some law, like the process of observing thing like inherently changes like the state of it.
Well, yeah, and that's that's part of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which I think is related to
probably the dopest of all uncertainty principles.
That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, you always have to be specific and say Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, not just, Joe.
Because otherwise, how would you know?
Right, exactly. It's true.
We're doing it, boys.
All right, we're making it happen.
But that is cool of like quantum uncertainty being like partly like what the idea of a ghost is.
Right.
As far as like they are like alive and dead.
Right.
And giving it sort of like this like scientific explanation for like how like a ghost is someone's like essence on like another plane.
Right.
That's like being superimposed into ours.
Mm-hmm.
Like using like these like all these like complicated scientific things to explain like it's just a ghost.
Right. Right.
I really like stuff like that.
Sure.
It's just like, yeah, I'm like, I believe it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's basically just sort of the extension of that idea of, any science sufficiently advanced is indistinguishable from magic.
Clarke's third law.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Arthur C. Clarke. Yeah. Right. And yeah. And so that's basically kind of what this book is doing. Yeah, because it's, I mean, to sort of even describe the genre of this book is maybe a little difficult. I mean, I guess technically it's science fiction, but yeah, it's also got all this other weird stuff in there that's maybe not quite science fiction, but it attempts to explain that stuff scientifically.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's a science fantasy. Like
Science
I don't know.
fantasy,
This
yeah.
it's British humor.
British humor. It's definitely that. Yeah.
I mean, because it all fits naturally. It is, it is like it's like sci-fi or fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're rarely like mixed unless it's like usually in comedies. That's when they're mixed.
Right. Or in the Marvel universe. Yeah.
Or in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's either British humor or the biggest thing in the world.
That's right.
So I guess what I'm saying doesn't really add up.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess the only other thing to maybe talk about is just the way that there's a lot of stuff in here about people sort of being taken over by other forces, and how people will do things that don't really make any sense at the time, but then they'll sort of like justify it afterwards. Like there's a part where Richard actually breaks into his girlfriend's apartment to like delete an answering machine message, and then he sort of explains it afterwards. It's like, oh yeah, well, I mean it just seemed like the right thing to do, but it turns out that he was actually kind of being controlled by this other force, and yeah, I guess we probably shouldn't talk any more about this sort of plot, because I mean there are some great sort of ways that this sort of unfolds, and like the sort of overall mystery of it, and how everything gets explained, which I wouldn't want to spoil that for people, but
that's basically the setup of the story. There's all that stuff happening, and by the way, superimposing. Another term for that is overshadowing. For those familiar with the works of Danny Phantom, he overshadows people when he possesses them as a ghost. Okay. And like, actually, hold on, I was doing this as a bit, but actually, because they whenever he leaves, I'm pretty sure they go like, "Oh yeah, I guess I did do that."
Right.
And then a more serious example would be in Quantum Leap, which that's the whole premise of it, which is he superimposes himself onto people.
Right.
But when he leaves, the choices they made, they become the kind of person that would have done that. Did you watch Quantum Leap?
Oh yeah, all the time. I don't remember them really sort of following up with people afterwards. But,
I at least a couple of times. I remember like they'd be like, because that was the whole thing, right? It'd be like, oh, this person died this way, and then he overtakes them, changes their life, and then like, what happened? Like, oh yeah, they kept doing that because otherwise they would have just died later.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, sometimes he like prevents something that otherwise would have happened. But I thought that in Quantum Leap, they actually switched places. Like the person that he leapt into actually went into his body in the future.
That was the thing where it's just like, they were just like in a room, and like Sam would be like, okay, so by the way, but like I remember an episode where like he overtakes a guy in like the crime mafia, and and he's like. And the thing I liked about it too, he's like, that guy was an amazing actor, because it's like, because he like awesome. He is given like half of their like he has to, like, it's not, he can't just immediately 180 change their life. Like he has to like gradually like do it, because he's like kind of still them.
Sure.
And like there was a mafia guy, and he like slowly was like, oh, I'm gonna leave this crime life, and like the he has to do it convincingly, because he's like, oh, I can't just leave. It's like, you know what? I'm starting to think like, hey, you ever think about not committing crimes? And he'll talk to people like, what are you talking about? And then I just remember when he got back, he mentioned like, oh yeah, that guy like just left. He followed through on like the path you were setting for him.
Right. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, yeah.
That might be a quantum leap on my part, though.
Well, no. I mean, there actually is one other episode of Quantum Leap I'm remembering, which is relevant to this book as well. Which is there was an episode where he leapt into somebody who was very close to Marilyn Monroe, and so he had some interactions with her, and he ends up saving her life, and she goes on to make another movie, and that turns out to be the last movie she made, the Misfits, and so he ends up making something happen that we all already know happened, but like it was a timeline where that didn't happen. And basically,
that is very similar to something.
Yeah, and so basically, there's something like that in this book as well, which is one of the most kind of I mean, it was a thing that really kind of blew my mind the most when I first sort of read it and really kind of understood it. And it has to do with a poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and all I would advise you to do is, if you're not familiar with his poetry, after you read the chapter where they read Kubla Khan at Cambridge, go and look up the text of Kubla Khan and compare that to what it says about it in the book, and there's some interesting stuff there, because basically, that's a sort of knowing what goes on with that poem is sort of I think essential to kind of understanding one of the big plot elements here.
Now, Kubla Khan, is that a relative of Kotal Khan?
Of Genghis Khan.
Oh, he actually is a relative of someone. I was saying a Mortal Kombat character, but he actually is related to someone?
I believe Kubla Khan was Genghis Khan's grandson.
Oh.
Yeah, and so it's a poem about him.
So there's truth in everything.
That's right. Yeah. But what was the Mortal Kombat guy?
Kotal Khan, I'm pretty. He was in Mortal Kombat. I've never played Mortal Kombat, but I watched the cutscenes on YouTube because I love the story.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to play a fighting game.
Yeah.
Kotal Khan is I think he's the new ruler of the land, but he's brutal, but he is trying to bring order to it.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing for him to be in charge, because it's oh, who else do we have? Mm-hmm. That your soul is mine guy.
Raiden.
No, the evil one.
Okay. I only know the first two Mortal Kombat games.
I am deeply invested in the lore of Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
It's an amazing story. Yeah. They're all in the same... They don't reboot it. They're all no, that did happen. And we're going to keep going. That's cool. Johnny Cage in one of them, he's now leading a special forces thing.
Oh, wow.
And they mention he won the tournament. And he's this guy is now a big deal in our world. And he's the hero, and they're discovering his ancestry and stuff. And then later on you meet his daughter, and now she has that ancestry too, and then she'll meet him. And it's it's a great story. We'll never play the game. 'Cause I've played it once. I'm so I tap square and then triangle. That's the combo you use to win. I'm okay, so if we all know what buttons you have to press in what order to win, that's the thing. It's like playing Call of Duty Zombies, and I'm so then what? We just play again. I'm this is insane. What do you mean we're gonna play for 6 hours? I have left a slumber party because we're gonna play zombies again. I'm we just played it. That was it. Oh wow. That was the whole game. And I'm
you weren't into it, huh?
No, because it's you got to round 10. I'm yeah, we're done. No, we're gonna do it all over again. Do the exact same technique, and maybe
oh wow,
it would just drive me insane. Stuff like that would make me lose my. I wasn't popular as a social person.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because I'm not sure I was the most popular either, but I did play and replay Mortal Kombat 2 obsessively by myself. So,
Okay. Yeah. Well, it's probably a cool thing to do.
Well, Yeah, a cool thing to do by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't give it.
On Fridays and Saturday nights. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've played mini games multiple times. I played New Vegas at least 15 times. And it's a game where you can make choices. I make the exact same choice every time. Because I like the story. That creates. But I can just sit there and be like, "Yep, thank you, Mr. House. Let me get the hunting shotgun because that's the best gun."
Well, making choices. What choices are made in this book? Hey, all right.
Yeah. So that's the.
Yeah. I think that we've covered the main story of it. Would you recommend this book, Cody?
I would. This is firstly, it's a very easy read or listen.
Yep.
I assume this is around like the 300-page mark.
Yep.
You can get that's like 4 days. Like after at least when I read The Time Machine did it. Right. It was just like I would get home, read a bit, be like, hilarious, can't wait to finish it.
Right.
2 days, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's a quick, easy read. It's like funny. One of those books where I'm like, I wouldn't read this in public because I feel weird being like, and I'm like, no one believes I actually think this is funny. You know?
Yeah.
I'm superimposing this persona of being someone who likes books. That's how I feel. That's why I can't do anything because I'm like, people are looking at me and they think I'm lying. This was a really good. I don't know if I'll check out the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because those are much longer, right?
Well, each individual one is not any longer, but the entire series is 5 books. But none of the books is that long.
Okay. Well, then maybe I will check those out.
Yeah. I would definitely say at least check out the first 2. I would say, yeah.
Now, how do you feel about this book?
Yeah, well, I've already revealed that. Yeah, this is one of my favorite books. I think this is Douglas Adams' best. I definitely love the Hitchhiker's Guide books as well, but I think I like this one a little more. I think just because I think the overall sort of tone of it is a little less relentlessly cynical and pessimistic and stuff. Like, in the Hitchhiker's Guide books, this is no spoiler. The Earth is destroyed within the first 50 pages of it. That kind of bums you out a little bit. I guess
it's a bit of a downer beginning.
It's certainly played for laughs. The Earth is destroyed in order to build a new intergalactic bypass. I think that's like the joke. And that's funny, but this book is just like a little more kind of low key in terms of okay, there's just some weird stuff that happens, and let's figure it out. And it has its own sort of unique rhythm and feel to it. But I think it's a really fun world to kind of get into. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to watch this if it's a faithfully made TV show.
Yeah.
You don't need. This is the thing. I've stopped being like I want adaptions.
Right.
Because it used to be like I can't wait for this to be a movie. Yeah. I'm like they'll ruin it. It's fine.
Just read every damn thing is.
Yeah, just read the book.
Yeah.
I would say this would be a great book.
Right. And it is. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, that'll do it for everything else. I don't know if you're reading, watching anything lately.
Yeah, I think after reading this, I'm putting Long Dark Tea Time with a Soul right up on my to read list. I think that's all I got to say for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just finished Death Stranding.
Okay, yeah.
That's a world where the living world and the undead world they got forcefully merged together.
Okay.
And actually, so the issue is if the undead, which are from antimatter, make contact with a living being, it causes a void out, which is like a massive nuclear explosion. So the world just immediately, almost within a couple years, just everything, just like civilization can't work the way it used to. And the main character, Schroeder, we're getting some themes here. The baby, you get like a baby born from what's called a still mother. So it's like a brain dead mother, and they get the babies from, and it's like actually pretty like, yeah, we're not supposed to do this.
Right.
The baby, because it was like born on the border of life and death, it's connected to the spiritual world. Because the other issue is people can't see these things.
Right.
So like, but there are like these like ghosts and like demon things that like are constantly trying to find living things. So you connect to like this like artificial umbilical cord to this baby, and it's like, oh, because it's like in this state of like not dead or alive, you can then see the undead world, and that's what lets you like navigate this reality.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Interesting. So, and what is this called again?
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding. Okay.
It's people call it a walking simulator, but like you also like you get boots and stuff, and you have to like pay attention where you're walking, because like slippery terrain, you'll fall.
Okay.
And if you make too much noise, something's going to hear you, so you have to be very careful. And it's a very beautiful story.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. And so that's a video game on just.
Everything. Director's Cut just came out. Sequel just got accidentally announced. We could do a whole episode on that. But like basically the director was told like mobile games are the future.
Yeah.
And like these big story things you're doing, they're just not profitable. So he left, and like he wanted to like make like his this is like a passion project to show like what video games can do.
Right. Okay. Excellent.
All right, now Duncan, do you have any final thoughts? Since this was your book, you're in charge of creating an outro.
Okay. Well, when you are walking through life and you see a bunch of random stuff happening, it might all be connected, and so think about that, and think about how every choice you make influences every single other thing that happens in the universe.
Okay. And until next time. All right, we're going to go.
Okay. Bye-bye. See you next time.